Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. Joining you guys again today to talk about the trade deadline where the Thunder acquired Gordon Hayward. They also acquired a 2028 Mavs pick swap. Just kind of getting in this deal to help the Mavericks get what they need in order to make a deal. So let's talk this through a little bit because we did a live stream earlier with Jay, and I'm hoping to get somebody else to join me here. If not, we'll just go through here and we can take questions from the chat and we can just have a good time. So the trade did change a little bit, and we can talk about exactly what the Thunder traded in order to get Gordon Hayward. So it was originally thought, and we knew that it was going to be something more. We kind of just thought it was going to be Poku that got thrown into this deal. But it ends up being Micic instead of Poku. So it's Gordon Hayward for Micic, Bertans, and Trey Mann, plus 2 second-round picks, which is a second. I believe it's Houston's second this year, and then Philly's second next year. So nothing just like groundbreaking or anything that's going to like derail anything with the Thunder. I mean, Micic is a fun player, and I get not wanting to trade him, but we have to be like a little bit more realistic about what he's done this year. And I know he's played well in different spots, and that's great, but we're talking about a player that has averaged 3 points and 2.5 assists, shooting 40% from the field and 24% from three. I don't think he was going to make an impact in the playoffs. Oh, here's the perfect person to help break this down with me is Michele Barra. Michele, welcome.
Hey, I was almost wearing my pajamas, but I'm here.
Michele joining us late night from Italy. So we're talking about the deal that we thought was just, I thought it was going to be no picks and Bertans and Trey Mann and maybe Poku.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up being 2 second rounders that aren't great seconds. One of them is a Philly second. One of them is a Houston second. Neither one are like some great deal for, for the Hornets. In fact, like I just did a podcast with Seth Partnow, and Seth Partnow thinks like this is negative value for the Hornets to get. He's like, he was like, you might as well just have let him expire than doing what you did. I don't know that I agree with that, but I do see his point. And so like there's like a more of a national perspective on the deal. And from what I understand, I don't think Vava was going to be a key contributor in the playoffs, especially if Hayward's here, who can take ball handling duties at times, who is going to play on the wing. And if you are still going to play guys like Kenrich and Wiggins and, Case and Wallace, if you're still going to play those guys and Gordon Hayward, you weren't also going to play Vasily Micic in the playoffs. That just wasn't going to happen. So it gives him a chance to go somewhere else, or to like, if he needs to catch a buyout and go back to Europe, also fine, but it gives him a chance to play somewhere else where he'll probably play some significant minutes in Charlotte. Like they need somebody to just kind of organize what they do.
Oh, they don't need. They, I mean, depending on the goal, and also the second rounders
need to play the rest of these games. I just think having a guy that can get the ball to Brandon Miller, just like one more guy that can get the ball to Brandon Miller, is a helpful thing.
Yeah, and also having like a guy that can actually play pick and roll and a team that wants to play some pick and rolls. I mean, they have like a screen and dive center, two of them. And so, I mean, I would love to see Mark Williams with a guy like him, like Micic. He's injured now, but he'll be back eventually. And to me, the deal with Micic always was, hey, we try this out. I think that Case and Wallace is the big reason why Micic is today on the was traded today, because I mean, Case and Wallace is getting minutes. Isaiah Joe is getting better, and I mean, these are all guards minutes, and also Aaron Wiggins is playing well enough. And it was clear to me, and it was like really bright against the Jazz, that really OKC needs someone who can be a little bit more of a 3-4 guy. Because Usman Jang is not ready. Josh Giddey may not be the best player to play in a late game setting. Kenrich Williams, for different reasons, is not having a stellar season, and he's also a guy that struggles mightily at the free throw line. So what kind of lineup are you really playing against a team that has like very tall bodies that can really guard in space? Because if you play against the T Wolves, for example, you can bank on the fact that if they have Cat, you can actually exploit that
Yeah,
a little bit.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
I'm not really worried about that. But teams like the Nuggets, which OKC beat multiple times, or teams like the Jazz or even the Lakers. I mean,
Mhm.
it's either Kenrich Williams or maybe Kenrich Williams. You can't ask J-Dub to be in year two the LeBron stopper in the playoffs. Not that Gordon Hayward can do that. I'm not saying that. But having another tall body that is not cramping your spacing, because we can say many things about Gordon Hayward, but he's a fine shooter. I mean, it's especially when you give him good shots. He's a player that can hit shots, can hit wide open shots, and defenses will probably have to stay a little bit closer to him compared
Mhm.
to Giddy, because he can, like, if he refuses a three, if you leave him like extra wide open, like, I don't know, 12 feet, 15 feet, he will just make two dribbles and let you pay with dribble jumper, because he's a fine shooter. Can he play? That's the question.
Yeah.
And then I'll finish this monologue. But I was chatting with some Italian friends, and I said, well, if he can play 8-10 games, those 8-10 games, then this trade is worthy. And I said, well, it's a big if. I know it's a big if, but what is the real downside?
Yeah. The I don't see like a major downside to this trade. They didn't trade any picks that have like tremendous upside. They traded away players that weren't going to play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I just don't. I mean, if there's hand wringing about this, like one, I don't get it. Also, like, look nationally, like Zach Lowe is praising this deal. Seth Partnow is praising this deal. Like, guys that like really watch a lot of basketball think
Yeah.
that like, oh, this is actually a good deal for the Thunder, and it gives them like one more guy that can actually play the role. Like, they're putting Josh Giddey in a role to play like they're actually going to ask Gordon Hayward to play, and there may be minutes, and hopefully he gets healthy. From what I understand, he's going to be healthy soon, if not very soon, for the Thunder.
If not Sunday.
If not, I mean, Sunday would be amazing. Is it impossible? I don't know. I mean, also, we know how injuries were kind of handled in Oklahoma City whenever the games didn't matter. It was like, you're not feeling
Yeah.
that good? Why don't you have a seat, my friend?
Yeah.
Here where it's like, hey, we're fighting for playoff positioning. We're fighting to like go deep in the playoffs. I think it's good. We have a super chat from Hot Spot Casino. He says, I like the trade because it should take the ball out of J-Dub's hands. I want him to play off ball. I just hate that Hayward is injury prone. If he wasn't injury prone, he wouldn't have been available for this price, one.
Yeah.
And then two, like, he probably just wouldn't be available, period. Or you'd have to give up a lot. So like there's like two sides of the coin. Like, on one side, it's he's injury prone. Is he actually going to play for us? What is he at this point in his career? All fair questions. And then the other side is like, hey, they got him because he is that. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it happened. And
And he is expiring, and he has no value whatsoever for Charlotte going forward. And in
yeah,
this deal, I mean, another wrinkle, which it's not mine, it's I mean, Mark's tweeted about it. Yes, it's about having Hayward in the playoffs, but it's also clearing like a lot of money for next year.
yeah,
It's 8 millions, roughly 8 millions for Misic, 5 millions for Bertans. Um, and then you have probably 3.5 for Trey Man. So all this money means something. Like it's not nothing. 18 millions in next year's cap it's actually good money. I mean, you can use him to sign someone, you can use to extend guys, you can use to whatever you want. You have a lot of flexibility. And if you have to pay like 2 second rounders to have more space and a chance that maybe Hayward is a guy that in a unit with Giddy, Dub, and him, you have enough spacing. Because I mean, if Hayward can play with Giddy, J-Dub, Chet in the second unit, and you have Giddy as the lone non-shooter, that lineup will work so much better. I mean, think about Case and Wallace, Giddy, J-Dub, Hayward, and Chet. I mean, that is their second unit, because the other one will be probably Shea, Dort, Joe, whatever, and Jalen Williams, maybe Usman Jeng for some minutes, which Shea will hold. I mean, the second unit is extremely good if Hayward can give you a little bit of spacing and not awful defense. That's what it's asked. And I know that to some degree, Micic was making that unit run extremely well. But I don't want to take the ball away from Giddy's hands necessarily. I don't want to take the ball from Jada's hands necessarily. I mean, having another guy who can be a playmaker but doesn't need to be a playmaker in order to be effective, which was the main issue with Micic, because either you play him as a playmaker with the ball in his hands or he's not effective. And now we have another play, and if you play him with Giddy, that doesn't work. We remove one of that and we add like size while having some ball handling capabilities as well.
Yeah, I mean, this season he was averaging 14.5 points, 4.7 rebounds, 4.6 assists.
Yeah,
and he's a guy they didn't pay a whole lot for, and he did that in 31.9 minutes per game. The good news for Gordon is like he doesn't have to play that much anymore.
No,
I mean, it's going to be 18? Half that. Yeah, it's not going to be a whole lot, and there may be times, and like the hope is this: you get to the playoffs. And you need somebody with some experience that like is not going to be afraid of the moment, that's been there before, which they just don't have that many of those guys. And we've even seen it in some like big time games recently where it's like, man, we're just like checking off the guys who like are not contributing in this game. And I think Hayward's going to be a guy that can do it. And he gives them like lineup versatility where like if you did like go super small, like you could play him at the 4. You could even go bigger and play Jay Will and Chet and then Gordon at the 3 and Dub at the 2 and Shea at the 1. You could play bigger like that, where if you needed to, you could go super small with him at the 4 and have he and Kenrich next to each other. Like he just offers like lineup versatility where he can play the 3 and the 4. And this was the kind of guy that we were kind of calling for all season. And it's why he was ranked number 3 on our trade. We had like this whole big trade document that we made where we went through all the names we could possibly think of.
Did we put him at 3? Really?
We had him at 3.
Wow.
Number 3. I can share.
We are very good. We are very good.
I can share the document. I think that let me try to share my screen here, because like this and all the names kind of make sense, and people are still very much in. Oh, the Thunder should have gotten a big. I just got done with a podcast for the Athletic NBA show, and the talk was just like, oh, they should have gotten a big. I wish they could have gotten a big. It's like listen, like they weren't going to trade for a big. Cam Johnson, number 1 on the list. The word on the street about the Nets is that they just valued their guys more than anybody else. Like, period. And so they weren't going to, you'd have to give up a ton to get him. Say, like Dorian Finney-Smith, the value was just like so far through the roof that they didn't even trade him today.
I think they wanted like 2 firsts. Is that probably the price?
They wanted like 2 good firsts. Like 2 firsts that, and the Thunder were like, hey, we got a couple in 2024. I don't know that they said that. This is all just conjecture.
Yeah.
But I think they probably wanted 2 really good firsts. And if you're one of those teams, you're like, all right, cool. No thanks. Al Horford was second. Al Horford didn't get moved in a deal. I mean, the only way that it was going to work, and we talked about this, and this was actually an idea that was kind of born from our friend John Hamm, was that perhaps they did want to get Kelly Olynyk, and they would flip Horford for Olynyk, and then the Thunder could be maybe the 3rd team or whatever. That didn't happen. So the 3rd guy on our list is Gordon Hayward. and it's honestly just like because it made so much sense. Because one, it'd be low cost, and he's a position of need for the people that like understand the way the Thunder are going to operate. He was a position of need, and there may be complaining that like they didn't get our number 5 guy Kelly Olynyk in at this deadline, but I honestly think part of it is it was going to cost a first to get him. And are you willing to pay a first? I think a question that the Thunder probably had to ask themselves is, are we willing to pay a first in order to just basically rent a guy for the rest of the season? And and I think the answer was no, because they actually could have given a better first, because the first that was traded for Olynyk was the worst of the Thunder's picks. And this one was the second worst of the Thunder's picks that they ended up giving up, which we'll talk about that in a second. But they could have given that up and certainly gotten Kelly Olynyk if they wanted him.
Yeah.
I also think that there is a sincere belief in Jay Will.
Yeah.
That they want to see.
It's a good question to have, Andrew. Like, do you prefer to give up 2 seconds for Gordon Hayward or 1 first to Kelly Olynyk? And again, and to dice this up,
that's definitely the right question. Yeah, that's the right thing that's the right way to phrase it. Yeah.
And there was also a comment in the chat that I want to discuss from Austin Casemayer, who says Hayward was probably going to be bought out, and OKC paid little to guarantee that he ends up with them and not a bigger market. Good stuff. Yeah, but keep in mind, Austin, that the money and the trade, like the fact that you remove 3 players and you get 1, gives you a ton of flexibility to be active on the buyout market on other players while reducing your salary for next season. I'm going to repeat, because it's like this is also something that would not have happened with Olynyk.
Yeah.
Like, was he making like 9 million, something like that? I don't remember.
Who?
Olynyk.
Oh, Olynyk. Yeah, I think that's right. Around 9 million.
So you have to incentivize the Nets to take in more salary. The Jazz to take in more salary, which was not easy. And so, yes, Olynyk makes sense. You probably have to go Mitsic and a first for Olynyk.
12.1 million.
12.1. So it's Mitsic and Mann, but not Bertans. Like if you have Bertans, then you need to add money to make it work. Mm-hmm. Whereas with Charlotte, you said, okay, 2 first, and I'm saving a lot this year and next year. Yeah. So, and again, you have 2 roster spots available right now. You can look for, I don't know, whoever is on the buyout market.
They're one of the few teams, them along with the Sixers, who also have cleared 2 spots, who can actually take in buyout guys, where like all the other quote unquote contenders can't do it unless they made a certain amount of money before the buyout, which is kind of confusing, but that's how it works. So yeah, they could be in the market for some kind of big. Do I expect there to be another big man on this roster? Not necessarily. I really do not think that that's going to happen. Hey, shout out to the guy who gave us a super chat. Andrew and Mickey are the best. Thanks for the great content. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't think it will be Robin Lopez, but who knows? He may be like a great character in the locker room.
I personally would be so pumped if Robin Lopez was on this team. I would do it just for the content alone. Give me Robin Lopez for the content. Can you imagine? Yeah. But I think overall, the Thunder did well at the deadline. Yeah. They got a guy who, if he can play, is going to be very helpful. And they also, we can talk about this now. Oh, Jason Potter in the chat says Thad Young to be bought out per report. Like, that's another guy. That's kind of interesting. That
not a Thunder guy in terms of weight of playing the game. It's not like a
passing.
Yeah. Whereas
but
this is
body.
Yeah. If you can get it for like, I don't know, whatever prorated minimum, veteran minimum, it's fine. The point to me on Hayward is also the fact that he plays exactly the way OKC is playing. You said it probably already, but this is extremely important because I think that he can be a plug and play kind of guy.
Yeah,
which is extremely useful.
Yeah, and it's not it's an interesting team to be put on because not everybody in the league can just be plopped on the Thunder and just get minutes and play. And I think, hey, like you're right, Hayward can do that. Like he can make that happen because like he's really smart and he can shoot, he can pass, he can dribble, he can do all the things that you want. And the hope is that he'll be ready to go. It'd be cool if he played Sunday against the Kings. I don't know his status and what that's going to happen, but I think soon enough we're going to see Gordon Hayward in a Thunder uniform, and it's going to make the Thunder more competitive internally because I just don't think those three guys were going to compete for like legitimate playoff minutes, and so like it may cause like these other guys to up their games a little bit.
Mhm.
And I think, and Hayward, I just think he's the kind of guy that they needed. They needed a bigger wing. They need a bigger wing that can play next to Chet in closing moments. That is just a little bit taller, can hit threes. You have to close out to him. You know, he's hitting 40% of his corner threes. I think is a big deal. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what he is for his career, and he's been better than that in recent seasons. And playing for a team that doesn't generate great shots either. You know,
Yeah.
I was looking at PJ Washington's stats for this pod that we just did for the Athletic NBA show, and he's shooting 34% on catch and shoots. You know, and some of that is like
Yeah.
PJ is kind of a strange player, but some of that is like they don't generate great shots in Charlotte.
No, no,
How wide
LaMelo
open?
is yeah.
I mean, how wide open is Gordon going to be in this offense? Like I think it's just one more guy that can really knock down shots. And like how many years were we all beating our heads against the wall about them acquiring shooters? And like they just acquired another shooter,
Yeah.
a guy that can really knock down shots to this team who already has. I mean, they already have this team has a lot of shooting. I mean, you know how many guys are averaging 39% from three or better on this team?
It was a lot, and now it's probably a little bit less, but
Well,
a lot.
it actually probably stays the same.
So Dort is shooting 39%.
Oh
Chad
no,
is over 39% probably.
it
Casey
is a
Wallace.
little bit less because Trey Mann and Bertans were
Okay.
shooting above 40. But like guys that are getting significant minutes, like it adds one more guy. I mean, Wiggins, J Dub, Joe, Kaysen, Chet, and then
Dort.
Dort and Kenrich. So there's 7 guys
Yeah,
that
I don't
play.
trust Kenrich to be a shooter when it matters. I trust Hayward a little bit more.
Yeah, it's just like another option for them. It's just another option for them. I really like it. I really like it for them. I think it's a nice deal.
Weirdly enough, OKC starts with a package of assets, and suddenly, if you look at the end of the trade deadline, it's much better.
Better. Oh my gosh! I'm so glad we've been doing this. We've been doing this series for the OKC Dream Team show, or we're breaking down draft prospects, and we've done it every year. And we started it here on Down to Dunk, basically, and we're going through all these prospects, and like we're just like texting back and forth, just like, dude, like this is so bad. There's just people are like, oh, maybe it's a good role player draft. I'm like, stop trying to like sugarcoat this pile of poop in front of me. Like,
how can you say that? We have to talk about the color.
I know. I am so glad they have basically punted this draft to the moon. I am so glad that the Utah Jazz are saying, hey, let's just get our pick back. And they're trading away veterans. Awesome. Thank you. Because all I really want is that one Houston pick that's probably going to fall between 8 and 12, I would guess. And then like, just give me Kyle Filipowski and let's just call it a day, please. Yeah. And like, don't give me anybody else. I don't really want anybody else in this draft except for him. I think he'd be awesome for this team. And I think that he can come in and like play
he'd be fun.
Kelly Olynyk type of role. Like, great, cool. Don't give me anybody else. And Sam Presti did that today. And I was just elated. I was elated to see that they traded this pick in this draft. That's late. They basically have gotten rid of their 2 late picks. And they parlayed it into what could be a valuable pick. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it could be a valuable pick for
Yeah,
them.
it's sort of like
2028.
2028. Who
Yeah.
knows? It's a swap. Is it a protected swap? I don't think so.
There are not any protections listed anywhere that I can find.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
come on. This is good. This is improving your draft stock. It's not adding picks, but it's probably improving whatever. I mean, it's 5 spots more. Who cares? You
I
will
mean,
need that.
yeah, basically what you do is you take a pick that really didn't have a lot of upside. You knew it was going to be probably a bottom 6 pick in this draft.
Yeah.
In which case you can't, they don't have like the room to add guys like that to the
Yeah.
roster. Like they
Yeah.
just don't have the room to do it. And so you probably have room to add one more guy, right? And so they keep that one pick. That's great. They may end up with two. We don't know where Utah is going to be, and they can't control that. Utah still could be outside the top 10 and still like make the play in or whatever. Like that's still possible. And so whatever. I think they need to just have the one. That's what I would want, is for them to just have the one, get another. Basically, if Utah does like lose enough, it's almost like they acquired another 2025 pick and then took that other pick and have acquired a better version of their own 2028 pick would be the hope. And like you said, like they could only be 5 spots better, but it just gives you the chance to maybe draft the guy that you actually want in 2028. Or you can trade that swap in 2028 to somebody, and that may have a lot of value to somebody. There's a lot of ways to get better. And I think the Thunder, I think they did it. I think for Dallas, it's a very, very, very risky move because it's year basically after Luka can walk from this deal is 2028.
Yeah.
And so there is tremendous upside with this. And they've been making risky move after risky move. They don't have picks to trade.
Yeah.
They don't have any picks to trade. And so they're betting on the Luka Kyrie pairing to work out as they move through this. And if you're the Thunder, they're betting on a Luka Kyrie pairing to blow up. Which would you rather bet on at this point?
Yeah.
After all, and there's no set. They could end up being awesome and great, and maybe they're even better than the Thunder. The Thunder made a calculated risk to punt this draft and to say when the Thunder are supposed to be, and they're already amazing. I don't want to like gloss over that. They're already an amazing team, but when they're supposed to be like in it, where they have been through some playoff rounds and they have done some stuff, and then to have a pick that has more upside than their own, which could end up being like the 29th pick in the draft or whatever that year. You have the chance to get the 19th pick instead, or an upside. Who knows what it could be? But if that's what it is, you move from 29 to 19. Great. Like I would pay the 27th pick in this draft just for the chance to move from 29 to 19 in a year where you actually really, really need those draft picks. This year, again, they just don't really need them. They have their core guys, the 3 core guys. They have other young guys developing around them, and they're going to have a chance to get another top 10 pick in this draft already.
Yeah,
so they
exactly.
to me, I think it's a really smart way to handle it, because I just don't know that you can walk away from this next draft with 3 picks and them all play and be good.
Yeah. No, it's actually good that they also having space now to add one of those picks, because it's now they don't have to make weird roster moves. They have the space.
Yeah.
They will probably sign someone. They have expiring, so they can lodge like 1, 2, 3 players next season without having to rethinking the roster. And it's paying a pick now to maybe pick better, so it's not adding a pick, but the upside of that pick is huge. It's a risk on something that likely wouldn't have mattered a lot. So these things are actually like trying to not mortgage your like whatever you're doing, not wasting resources now, and having a little bit of upside later on. So it's those are good moves, and I think that again, sometimes you win those trades, sometimes it's not really helpful. But like thinking about the Clippers and what they got with the 12th pick. If it will not always be like that, but you trade to do those kind of moves.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. Like you just give yourself a chance to have some upside, and that's what that was. And with this current pick, like maybe you do hit a home run with the 27th pick in the draft. It's happened before, but it's just very unlikely. What they're
But look,
betting on.
10 Kaysen, 12 Dub,
Yeah,
and of course 13 Jang and 18 Trey Man. But like if you peak there enough times, chances
yeah,
are that you get maybe like 2-3 good players out of 5 picks, and this is exactly what Presti is banking on. Even in the
mm,
next draft, we are not thinking. There was a post that said we are thinking that everyone is a bust. No, it's not like that. It's definitely not like that. But it's
yeah,
not a strong draft where you see guys that can fit. I mean, we were enamored with Trey Murphy. We loved Derek White. We said,
hmm,
"Oh, that guy." I mean, we like Filipowski. We like Cody Williams, which is completely out of the range for
yeah.
KC.
Hmm.
Um, that's it.
That's it. I like. Yeah, there are other guys that I like, but I'd rather walk away from this draft with one guy than like three of them.
Yeah,
Like, and it's also not. It's. I think that they're kind of past the era of like bringing in multiple guys from drafts and just hoping that they work out. I mean, look at last year's draft. I mean, they walked away with one first round guy, and I
yeah,
just think like you're closer to that where it's not like you need to ignore the draft. You don't. You need to continue to bring in guys and hope that they can help you. Absolutely. I don't
yeah,
think like that's. I think that you have to, and they will, and they obviously will. But I just don't think you can bring in three guys or even two guys in this section. They may have two picks, but I just don't think you can bring in multiple guys and
yeah.
develop them on this team. Like, where are the minutes? And that's how you
Exactly.
develop guys, is with minutes. So I just that's why I'm like very happy about like the moves the Jazz made and then the move of moving that pick. I think it's really hard. I mean, look at Jang. Like Jang was even a lottery pick. And like what Jang honestly needs right now is minutes to just screw up
Yeah,
and to just be who he is and not and just have just like freedom to play NBA minutes to get better, because that's how you get better in the NBA, is playing NBA minutes.
exactly.
It's
No,
really hard. It's really hard for Jang to develop in the G and then come up and become like some great player just through playing in the G League. It's just really, really difficult. And so I think, right, and then you're asking like guys that are younger than him to come in. I just think it makes it tough, and that's why I really like the deal. I really like the deal for them. I really like both deals, and I
yeah,
did they pay more than I thought they would have to for Hayward?
maybe a
Yeah,
bit.
they did pay more than I thought that they would have to. I didn't really think they'd have to give up picks, but we also don't
Yeah,
know
but think
like
about
what.
the salary. The salary is part of it. I mean,
Yeah,
Bertans has 5 million next year.
hmm,
It's also taking in something that expires and like living 13 millions on salaries for the Hornets. I mean,
yeah.
2 seconds for 13 millions is not really a lot.
It's no harm, no foul kind of
Yeah,
deal. Or if Hayward comes in and he gets hurt again and he can't play throughout the playoffs, I just don't think it's that big of a deal, you know?
no,
And perhaps, like, the gripe would be that they didn't get Royce O'Neal or Kelly Olynyk or somebody like that, but also, I just don't think those guys, one, they're expiring, and it was gonna cost a little bit more, not necessarily for O'Neal, but and I like Royce O'Neal. I wish they would have acquired him because I think he's more healthy, but he also doesn't provide the lineup versatility that we're talking about with
yeah,
Gordon, and that you can play him at 3 and 4 because he's more of a 2-3. I still think that they could have figured something out with him, because it didn't cost a whole heck of a lot to get him for
yeah,
Phoenix. Phoenix didn't have a whole lot to give anyways. So do do I but I still understand like wanting a bigger wing. And that's why he was rated higher for us ultimately, was
yeah.
that he's a bigger wing. He didn't cost as much. and this is going to give them just a lot of versatility. And you keep all of your young guys. You keep all of the core of your team. You keep every young guy that you really like on this team. And you didn't have to deal them because I think teams were calling, like, for the guys that we maybe like really, really wanted, like the Cameron Johnsons. It was going to take one of the young guys that we really like.
Yeah, it's Kaysen, Joe, and a pick.
Yeah, I mean, they were going to be asking for Kaysen or Joe or maybe both. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think that there's probably a part of the Thunder that aren't ready to give up on Jang. I mean, Jang played really well in Utah. And I think the hope is that he can get better and, give him another year and see what he does. I'm not a believer in Jang.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying maybe that's what happens. I know there's a lot of Jang, some people in the Jang gang that are out there. And I'm not necessarily a part of that, but the idea is like he could still go out there. Honestly, like the hope with him is that he can become a player like Gordon Hayward.
Hey, maybe this is just to take a player to teach Usman Jang how to be how to play 25 game in a season or 54. Maybe that's the deal.
That would be cool. I'm less of a believer in that. Also, you get like basically an opportunity to bring in Hayward now and then re-sign him in the offseason if things go really well. Like you'll have the space to do it, and you could bring him back on a cheaper deal. And if he's great for you, awesome. If he's hurt and he can't do it, then you let him go. Also, I don't think a buyout was inevitable with him. He really enjoyed being in Charlotte. Like he was vocal about that on many platforms that he would have enjoyed just staying in Charlotte. Like they have roots there, his family's there. He would have liked to stay in Charlotte. And so I don't think it was an inevitable buyout. Like a buyout is usually like a two-sided thing with teams. And so I don't think the people saying like, oh, he was going to be bought out anyways. I don't think that was actually the case. So don't need to worry about that. I don't think they could have just gotten him for free. And also the Thunder couldn't have gotten off the money, like you said. So it's like overall just a helpful thing for both teams. All right. I'm done talking. McKelly's got to go to bed.
I'm constantly texting Andrew Zets to say, okay, I need to go to sleep. But yeah.
Yep. McKelly's got to go to bed. I've got to stop talking because I've been talking since 8 a.m. this morning about trade deadline. God, I love this day. What a great day. Thanks so much for joining. Hey, if you're in the stream right now, which there are a lot of you, thank you so much for everybody for joining us. Please hit that like button right now. That would be very, very helpful. That's all I need you to do. Just stop for a second, hit the like button. Very fun day. No star trades, but lots of trades happened and lots of trades that didn't happen. And if you want to hear more about it, you can listen on Down Dunk tomorrow. And then also on Slam and Jam tomorrow on the Athletic NBA show. Alex and I are going to talk to Sam Amick about the day and kind of what did and didn't happen. So tune into that. And you can also listen to me also on the Nerd She Wrote pod, where we break it down with Dave DeFore, Seth Partnow, Mo Dakhil. So good stuff. Thanks so much for listening. We will talk to you guys again on Friday.